Today, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who isn't at least vaguely aware of anime and K-dramas. In a world where Hollywood dominates the media and America's culture has spread far and wide, it's unusual to find another country's culture and media making its way to American audiences. And yet, that's exactly what East Asia has done. Many aspects of East Asian culture, particularly from Japan and South Korea, have found audiences across the globe, including America. One of these aspects is television, with anime coming from Japan and K-dramas from South Korea. The histories of anime and K-dramas are rich and complex, but this video will focus specifically on the history of how anime and K-dramas spread to America. While both are forms of television and come from East Asia, much of what makes them what they are have little to do with the other. Both are unique to their respective countries and cultures, and both have a rather different story of how they came to America. It was 1963, and children's lives in Japan had changed forever. For the first time, young children had more than American shows to watch. A beloved comic, Mighty Atom, had become the first Japanese cartoon. Featuring the show's namesake and his adventures in a futuristic and technological society, the show was a huge hit despite its shoestring production budget. At its peak, the show supposedly had 40% of Japanese households tuning in. Mighty Atom, also known by the translation Astro Boy, was a huge success, and it wasn't long before anime took Japan by storm. Since the dawn of its creation, anime has had the ability to evoke powerful emotions from its viewers, and as time has passed, its cult following has become more globalized and more mainstream. However, lovers of anime have always faced scrutiny and confusion from the wider public, even in Japan itself. The fanatic adoration of viewers led to the coining of the term otaku in 1983, a word used to describe people who are interested in a particular genre or subject, are extraordinarily knowledgeable about it, and are lacking in social common sense. Despite the sometimes negative image, anime has continued to spread and has taken hold in America particularly. But how did anime spread to America in the first place? What made it so popular, and what can anime's history tell us about media and globalization? Despite anime beginning in 1963, it took another 26 years for anime's presence to begin reaching America. In 1988, the film Akira was released in Japan. Based on a manga of the same title and tailored specifically for adults, the presence of Akira was first felt in America through the English translation of the manga. A year later, on Christmas Day of 1989, the anime of Akira was released in art house theaters in America. At the time, animation cartoons were still seen as childish to the American public, and as such, Akira was not expected to perform well. Surprisingly, Akira began to develop a small but devoted fan base in the States. But what led to Akira coming to America in the first place? In 1982, President Reagan signed a law into existence allowing toy-based TV shows to be made. It didn't take long for companies to begin attempting to sell toys from TV, and their main strategy was through Japanese cartoons. Akira became a new approach to anime, as its primary function was to sell toys to fans. This marketing setup, as well as Akira's crazy story, characters, animation, and music, all of which were uniquely different from American cartoons, may have led to the show's small but dedicated fan base. 3 years after Akira's debut, America had its first ever Anime Expo, the 1992 Anaheim Anime Expo. 1,500 people attended the expo, but after only 4 years, the number had doubled to over 3,000. Slowly but surely, anime was beginning to make its way across the ocean. But anime wasn't the only thing making its way from Japan to America. Gaming soon began to take both countries by storm. Debuting in Japan in 1996, Pokémon was a true underdog story. Japan's Nintendo, the biggest and oldest gaming company, had low expectations for the game. A contraction of the words pocket monster, Pokémon was seen as a somewhat strange and confusing concept, and was thus released on a Game Boy. At 8 years old, the Game Boy was already considered an ancient system, and was assumed to be on its last legs. However, despite Nintendo's incredibly low expectations and perceived lack of market, Pokémon soon began to take over Japan. The game spread through word of mouth, and children all across Japan became obsessed. Hastily taking advantage of the unexpected popularity, Nintendo rushed to create and release a card game and anime of Pokémon. Pokémon Red and Blue came to America in late 1998, and just like in Japan, it was a hit. The anime made its way over shortly after the debut of the video game in America, and it was a huge success. The anime made $10 million on opening day, and so many kids cut class to watch the anime that several news companies took notice. The New York Times reported on the unexpected phenomenon, coining the term Pokeflu to describe the huge popularity of the game and anime. From there, anime began to slowly pick up speed. In 2003, the Academy Awards created a new movie section, Best Animated Feature, after increasing pressure from companies like Disney and Pixar. The contestants for that year were Ice Age, Lilo and Stitch, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and the dark horse contender, Spirited Away. In yet another surprising underdog story, Spirited Away went home with the prize that night. The film was nothing like America had seen before, focusing on Shinto tradition and culture, including Japan's kami. The film was uniquely Japanese and yet somehow captured the hearts of audiences all over the globe. Created by Hayao Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli, the film soon led to a wave of adoration and love for Studio Ghibli films. Spirited Away also triggered a wave of American anime, or shows created by Americans but modeled in the same artistic style of Japanese anime. The most notable of these shows was Nickelodeon's Avatar: The Last Airbender. Anime is now classified into several different subgenres. Some are well known to the average person: action, fantasy, romance, etc. However, there are a few subgenres and terms specific to anime, shoujo, shonen, and isekai being some of the most popular. Shoujo literally translates to young girl and describes the demographic this subgenre is geared towards. Shoujo is often romantic, with light and innocent themes. Shoujo anime includes Sailor Moon and Fruits Basket. Shonen is shoujo's opposite, geared towards young boys. These animes are often action, but also include fantasy, sports, science fiction, and much more. Popular shonen anime shows include My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Z, and Naruto. Isekai is unlike shonen and shoujo in that it does not describe a specific demographic. Isekai revolves around the setup of the main character being transported to another world where they grow and become extraordinary. Re:Zero, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and even Spirited Away fall under this subgenre. Over the last decade, anime has continued to grow as the rise of both social media and the internet fueled the spread of anime globally. As social media and the internet at large has continued to grow and expand, there became a less fixed timeline or a specific event or show that furthered the spread of anime to America. Nevertheless, it can be safely said that through social media and growing global connections in the digital age, anime has continued to gain an audience in America. Crunchyroll, a streaming service dedicated entirely to anime, recently reported over 50 million registered users with over 2 million paid subscribers by 2019. Over 100 million households worldwide watch at least one anime in 2020, with around 30% of American adults having a favorable impression of anime. By 2020, the anime industry had reached 2.4 trillion yen, or $22.5 billion. Clearly, anime's popularity isn't slowing down. K-dramas are one of many different South Korean cultural products that have begun to take the world by storm in what is called Hallyu, or the Korean Wave. The first generation of the Korean Wave, beginning around 1997, was sparked by the economic recession in Korea and was confined to other countries in East Asia. Historically, Korea had been more concerned about managing the influx of other countries' culture and media rather than the development of their own media. This changed during the economic recession in 1997, when budget cuts made it difficult to import television. It was around this time that Korean television companies began to focus on creating their own shows and exporting them to other countries in East Asia. The cost to air a Korean drama was much cheaper than Japanese dramas, and as such, K-dramas soon spread to the other countries in East Asia. Another reason for this rapid popularity could have been K-dramas' focus on East Asian qualities like Confucianism and education, rather than cultural aspects that were more specific to South Korea. Like anime, K-dramas include many different subgenres that fall under the larger K-drama umbrella, with fantasy, historical dramas, and school dramas being among the more popular subgenres. Romance is the most popular subgenre, and some of the first K-dramas to become popular in both East Asia and the United States are romance. The K-drama often attributed to spreading K-dramas to Japan in the beginnings of the Korean Wave, for example, was the romance K-drama Boys Over Flowers. It would take several more years for K-dramas to make their way to America, riding in on the coattails of K-pop. The second generation of the Korean Wave, starting in the mid-2000s, is most defined by the explosive rise of K-pop, but other aspects of Korean culture, such as K-dramas, began to spread outside of East Asia. The first generation also exclusively featured K-dramas, while the second generation gave rise to other Korean television genres like reality TV and game shows. Dal Young-jin, author of The New Korean Wave, stated that TV drama exports in 1995 were a mere $5.5 million. In 2001, the end of the first generation of the Korean Wave, drama exports reached $20.4 million. However, this number went up to $71.5 million in 2004 and $133 million in 2010. In 2013, exports of dramas reached $252 million. With each passing year, K-dramas became more and more popular and slowly made their way to the West. Korean cinema also began to make a name for itself. In 2020, the Korean film Parasite was the first non-American movie to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. The most influential factor that led to K-drama's rise in the United States was the influx of Korean dramas on Netflix. Over the past few years, Netflix has begun to import more and more K-dramas, as well as partnering up with Korean television companies to make Netflix-exclusive K-dramas. In 2019, Netflix released Kingdom, a Korean historical drama similar to America's The Walking Dead. In an attempt to appeal to a large audience, the show was released with dubbing in 12 languages and Netflix also chose to invest $13.3 million per episode, the highest amount invested in any Netflix series, excluding American original products at the time. Most notably, though, was the release of the K-drama Squid Game on Netflix in 2021. According to CNET, Squid Game is currently the most streamed series of all time on Netflix, with a whopping 1.65 billion hours of watch time. The drama took the world by storm, launching K-dramas into the American mainstream consciousness. Other popular K-dramas include Crash Landing on You, Goblin, Extraordinary Attorney Woo, Itaewon Class, Vincenzo, and The World of the Married, only one of which is not offered on Netflix. While K-dramas are newcomers to America compared to anime, it can be theorized that they will only continue to grow from here. Both anime and K-dramas have a unique and incredibly fascinating story of how they made their way into the hearts of American audiences. Both have a lot of similarities. Broader East Asian culture, devoted fans, social media, and streaming services like Netflix can all be observed when it comes to both media forms. Both are often based on an already existing story or comic, manga or manhwa. However, both are also incredibly different. From different media forms, animation versus live action, to different countries and languages of origin, to their history and when they came to America, both are clearly unique and distinct from each other as well. But why do people like them so much? Why have anime and K-dramas amassed such a devoted audience, and why anime and K-dramas specifically? Why not other countries' media? When asked, many fans of anime point to the detailed and complex storylines, interesting characters and action-packed scenes, and beautiful art to explain their love for the genre. The artistic style of anime is particularly unique. While America and other countries have their own style of animation, anime's art style is distinctively Japanese. The defining characteristics of the art style, the large eyes and small noses, for example, are what make anime anime. One principle of animation is appeal, and the distinctive features, easily recognizable characters, and strong expressions all add to the appeal. The breathtaking and impressive animation often draws viewers in, making them want more. A friend of mine who has been a fan of anime for most of her life described her first exposure to anime like this. When I was younger, I thought the art style was so pretty. I didn't know what it was called, but I always tried to see more of it. Clearly, anime's artistic style is distinctive and appealing to audiences across the world. When it comes to K-dramas, their classic and romantic storylines are often what people point to when they try to explain the appeal. CEO of CJ E&M Entertainment America, Angela Killeran, hypothesizes that K-dramas were initially appealing due to their largely female-centered entertainment. She explains that much of Hollywood centers around the male gaze instead of the female. She says, "I've often talked to fans of K-pop and Korean dramas, and they say the same thing. I love Hallyu because it rekindles a sense of romance. It's something that feels different from all the other entertainment I have." It's an overgeneralization. This hypothesis has merit. Historically, the most popular K-dramas have been romance, and women have made up the majority of fans. While popular K-dramas have begun to become more and more diverse in storyline and genre, the beginnings of K-dramas' popularity clearly comes from female-centered romantic storylines. Another thing to point out about what makes K-dramas unique is the dramatic storylines. Korean director Park Chan-wook hypothesizes that it's because Korean people are so emotionally expressive. There's a wide dynamic range or spectrum of the emotions that they have. So, in their cultural products, they really want to experience all of these different emotions. And these emotions naturally are emotions that all people can resonate with, which is why people from other countries are sympathizing with themes or emotions of these works. Both anime and K-dramas are from East Asia, which begs the question, what about East Asian media in general is so appealing to the Western audience? One thing that could be noted is the many differences between Western and Eastern worlds. Coming from East Asia, both K-dramas and anime feature aspects of Japanese and Korean culture that are uniquely East Asian. Some of these cultural norms and practices are unlike anything the Western world has seen, and this unique and different culture can inspire a lot of curiosity and interest in both East Asian media and the countries they originate from. European media is often very similar to Hollywood, and thus could be less intriguing. The growth of anime and K-dramas in the United States has also followed an exponential trend, sort of like a snowball effect. As both forms of media have become more popular, more and more people have become exposed to and subsequent fans of anime and K-dramas. Most people have some frame of reference for what these television forms are and are thus more likely to become viewers. Danish television, in contrast, is not something that is well known in the United States. No one is really exposed to Danish television, so they remain ignorant and uninterested. While this doesn't explain how K-dramas and anime started to become popular in America, it does explain how they continued to grow and gain an increasingly large audience. So what can this tell us about how cultural forms spread across the globe? What makes anime and K-dramas so popular? While there is no definitive answer, some patterns can be observed. One undeniable fact is that the internet and social media have become a powerful force for facilitating the exchange of cultures. With a link to the rest of the world carried around in our pockets, people today have more access to other non-mainstream forms of media, culture, and interests than ever before. A strong sense of community may also have something to do with the deep love and devotion exhibited in fans. Being a part of a subculture that can lead to judgment or confusion from the general public has often led to deeper bonds and feelings of community. People of similar interests bond over their shared love and related struggles. This strong sense of community often beckons others who feel bored, lonely, or simply curious. Social media furthers this sense of community as well, connecting people across vast distances. For those who feel lonely or isolated, social media opens the doors to a community they have always wanted. One might also hypothesize that the differences between East Asian and Western culture may be appealing to those who are curious or disenchanted with their own culture. The differences between anime and K-dramas and mainstream media in America may be both a help and a hindrance when it comes to spreading to the West. What can be assuredly said is that K-dramas and anime have not only found a receptive audience from their own culture, but also the historic media outlet of the world, America. Whatever the reason, both anime and K-dramas seem to have a certain spark that has resonated in the hearts of people far and wide, no matter their country or culture of origin.